Hey folks, welcome to this session where we'll discuss a somewhat hot topic among developers, pushing vibe-coded apps to production, but safely. My name is Yohan Lasorsa, and I'm a principal developer advocate here at Microsoft. Coding agents have become exponentially better in the past year, and this has changed completely how we build new applications. More people, even non-technical folks, now can take a real shot at building the app they imagined. The timeline changed too, with dramatic speed increases. What used to take months to build a prototype now takes minutes. The risk, though, is treating the first working demo as the production foundation. If you're a developer, I'm sure you've already experienced something like this. Like, marketing just had a crazy app idea yesterday, and today they're showing it to you after they've played a bit with GitHub Copilot or some other AI tool, asking that the code is there, so you just have to put it in production. Been there multiple times lately, so yeah, this somehow feels a bit personal. But here's the hard truth. Besides my own experience, multiple surveys and analysis show that 80 to 90% of AI-generated or vibe-coded prototypes never become production apps. And I would like to say that's for good reasons. You've all heard the horror stories lately about the outages, security and data leaks with vibe-coded apps that may have been pushed public a bit too early. And that's because while the development speed for apps is now faster than ever, the bar for production-grade apps still hasn't changed. You still need to know who the user is and what they're allowed to do. You still need a trustworthy data model, safe migrations, and clear boundaries around the data. You still need governance, compliance, security reviews, and a deployment model that can scale and be observed. And increasingly, you also need the data created by the app to be immediately useful, not just stored somewhere, but you need to be able to query and get insights from it and make it accessible to AI agents. So this is the shift. Coding agents make it much easier to go from idea to prototype. But the real gap now is getting from prototype to production. And Rayfin is there to solve that gap. It's a managed backend-as-a-service for building enterprise apps built on top of Microsoft Fabric. So it's a complete platform for web apps that provides you a backend with managed database, authentication, hosting, functions, storage, and real-time services. And that's great, having all of this in one place. But you may already be using other platforms that provide similar features. What's different here is that it was built to be enterprise-ready and Fabric native from day one. All the things that you already like and get from Fabric, like governance, security, compliance, and easy integration with your Fabric data estates, you have it with Rayfin. And there's also another thing that I should mention. It was built from the start with coding agents in mind, with the goal of making vibe-coded apps benefit from all of these features without any extra work from your side. Now that I've set the context, let's have a quick look at what we'll explore during this session. So from now on, don't worry, it will be mostly demos. We'll see how to create a new app using a coding agent in Rayfin, and see how to control how user can access it. We'll talk about data integrity and migrations as app evolves over time, and we'll live push our app to production. And finally, we'll see how to bring in some of the Fabric intelligence to build a nice dashboard for our application. So let's start by creating our application from scratch. I'll move on to VS Code, and I'll use npm create with the Microsoft Rayfin package to bootstrap my project. So here I get the option to either start using a built-in template from a template that's somewhere else, maybe in an external Git repo, or just start from scratch. For now, I will use one of the built-in templates, so you have multiple options. I'll keep the blank app because I want to customize it for my needs. I'll call my project chef. I want Microsoft SQL database to host the file. And yeah, after it copies all the files, it will just install everything I need. So meanwhile, I want to give you some background about the app that we are going to build. So I come from an Italian family, and we have plenty of recipes that are passed down from generation to generation, but most are only in the heads of the family members. And recently, as I was chatting with my kids about some of these recipes, I thought that it would be great to have a better way to store and share them, especially with the younger generation that is more used to digital tools. One critical requirement that I have, if I want to get the elders' buy-in, is that the family secrets must stay secret. I mean, some of these recipes are our very own secret sauce that we just don't want to share with the world. So I'm sure you can relate to that. So for this app, I've drafted this spec here. Okay, this is an app that's called Contoso Chef. It's a recipe sharing website used to store personal recipe and seek some meal inspiration. So to create recipe, you need authentication. Recipe have different visibility, private by default. You can also share some recipe that you don't want to be publicly listed with friends using a unique link. That's something I want also, because not all recipes are just family secrets, and some can be just shared with anyone. I'm listing some features like likes, so you can favorite some of your recipes. Oh, and already prepared inside this data folder some public recipes, something that I don't mind sharing in JSON format. So yeah, just to get some data to start with, also with images. So I put everything in there, and I even have some ideas that will be kept for later. So, okay. Let's get started with this application using Copilot CLI. So I'm running Copilot in YOLO mode to be able, so it can just do its thing. You can see that it's, oh, I'm not in the right folder. So first I need to go to the chef folder and restart Copilot. Okay. You can see that there are some skills and MCP server, so let's just explore that. So Rayfin, if you bootstrap the project using the Microsoft Rayfin CLI, you get by default this Rayfin skill that gives some instruction to the agent to understand how to create and use the Rayfin SDK to build the project. I also added one front-end design skill that's someone that you can find on the web to get some better web design capabilities to the agent. If we look at the MCP server, we also have one from Rayfin to allow the agents to load and all the documentation to understand how Rayfin projects works. So that's it. And since I put everything I wanted to implement in this spec.md file, I can just tell my agent to go on and implement what I have in my spec documents. So of course the agent will start reading my spec, trying to look at the project to understand how it works. You can see that it loaded the Rayfin skill to understand how Rayfin works. It may have used also the MCP server under the hood. It's taking a look at the data. So yeah, you get the idea. Because it's not really fun to just look at Copilot implement the stuff, we'll just fast forward a bit to the next step. So I already ran this prompt before and saved the result inside this branch, so I'll just remove this folder. So I put everything at the root of the project. So I'll just go back to my project. Okay. Now we're ready to see what the agents generated in there. So before we explore a bit of the project, I'll just run this command to create the backend for my application. So for that, I'll use the npx Rayfin up command with the workspace URI setting. And now I'm going to Fabric. I have created this workspace. You can see that it's empty. This is where I will put all the database and the backend for my Rayfin app. So for now, I'll just copy this URL in there and pass that to my command line and run it. And it should create all the backend and API endpoints, also the database in Fabric, and connect all of that to my application. So it will just take a few seconds, and meanwhile we can explore the project a bit. Just if you're curious, it took about 20 minutes to generate the project from my spec. So to get you an idea of how long it takes to generate a Rayfin project from the template. So the most important part of this project are located under the Rayfin folder. So the first important file is this Rayfin.yml file. You can see here we have some metadata about the project, like the name of the project, which services I want to be enabled for my project, like authentication, data storage, and static hosting. And I can even configure like how I want my front end to be built and stuff like that. And the second most important folder is the Rayfin data folder. This is where you have all the entities for your application. That's, for example, let's look at what a recipe looks like. So you can see that it's a TypeScript class. So all the entities are type safe. So you can use that in your application and get type inference from that. And to describe the schema for my entities, I'm using degradation from the Rayfin SDK. And if you're a JavaScript nerd just like me, you might be glad to hear that these are not just like Rayfin decorators, not TypeScript decorators. These are the standard TC39 spec decorators that are coming into the JavaScript standard a bit more later. So yeah, this is already built to be future-proof at this point. So yeah, I can have see all the properties that I have in my recipes, like the list of ingredients, the visibility with the different options, when it was created, and you can even define the relation with the different entities, like a recipe can have many likes. We can also have a look at the like entity to see how it's done. And basically all these different entities are grouped into this schema.ts. And this is what is used by Rayfin to create my database. So if I go back here to my workspace, if I refresh, I should see the SQL database that was created. So the schema was automatically generated from this data that was generated by the agent. So now the next step is maybe just run the application to see what it looks like. So for that, I run npm run dev, and I should have like my dev server running. And yeah, I have here the look of my application, so looking great. Contoso Chef, it's a cookbook. So for now, I can see that there's no data. I will start to sign in. I can see already that it's asking me to sign in using Fabric auth, so I'll just do that. Okay, as I said. So first run, I just wanted to have some data into my app to be visible, so it will import all the recipes I've put in the JSON file. But meanwhile, we should be able to just have a look at how it works. So I'll wait a bit until the data was imported. and we'll come back to see. What's important to retain here is that when I ask the agent to generate my application, it wasn't asked to like reinvent how to do authentication and find packages for that, how to handle storage, how to handle that data access from scratch. It used what the Rayfin platform provides. So still looking to import all the data. I will just open like a new tab to keep it running, but meanwhile just try to create like my own recipe. So that's what we wanted to see. So for now, let's just say I want to create like a test recipe, have some description. For now, let's keep things private. Yeah, some French cuisine coming from France. Let's add 1 teaspoon of testing, and okay, test should be good. Let's try to save this recipe. So yeah, I have my test recipe working in there. What I wanted to show you is that, okay, I could create my recipe. We'll test later to see if it's really private as expected. Because that's time to check this critical requirement. I wanted to keep the family secrets. So I want to see if this recipe that I created private, is really private, and check that the agent implemented it as I wanted. So what I'll do is just open this the application inside a private browsing window. So I should not be authenticated in there. So you can already see some of the recipes that were populated in there. And yeah, when you create a new recipe, the new ones just appear at first. So you can see it's still loading. So what I do is just try something dumb. Just try to copy paste the URL to see if I can access this recipe that's supposed to be private. And it's not fun, so that's at least great. It's saying, okay, it should be private, so probably that I can't access it. So that's exactly what I wanted to have. What we can do also is maybe just try to edit this, see if I can share it with the link. So let's just save that recipe. Okay, it should have finished, so it will probably be faster. Did it work? Let's try reloading. Okay, it's now marked as unlisted. So if I copy the link, let's try to refresh in there. So now I can access this recipe because it's marked as unlisted. And if I refresh in there, I should still not see it in the main page. And just so you can see, I can make it also public to see that in that case, it should appear with the rest of the public recipe in there. So was it called test recipe? So you can see that it was made public. Now back to private. Let's refresh and check that, yeah, this time it's not there. Okay, so this was just quickly checking that at least the agent seems to have generated things like I wanted them to be. Of course, for the unlisted things, this is the MVP of my cooking app. I wanted to keep things simple, just be able to share using the link. But you can also imagine more complex access control rules, being able to share only with specific authenticated user, for example. But yeah, for now, let's have a look at how the access control is implemented. So going back to the recipe entity. And we can see these two things in there. First, the read policy that we have put to allow any recipe that is not marked as private, so by the item.visibility. So that's the property under recipes that's in there. So as long as the recipe is not private, like anybody can read it, even if you're not authenticated to the app. Now for authenticated user, the policy is to be able to read-write the recipe if it's not private, not right, but at least read it. If it's not private, or if it's private, but you are the one that created it. And yeah, it seems obvious, but this is a key point here. This is because this is the moment where many prototype fails and usually needs to start rewriting the code. Here we have like identity and access control part of the app foundation. So it's built into the SDK and the Rayfin platform. And it's not just visual. By looking at it, this is how the backend handle the access control stuff. Now this is also when things start to get interesting. So let's say I want to implement one of my ideas that I kept for later to support user comments and recipes. And we want to add a comment section to the recipe page. So going back to the project, I'll stop the server for now and run Copilot again in YOLO mode, so I don't get any need for confirmations. And yeah, inside this spec, I also add, in this ideas for later, what I wanted for commands. So commands need authentication to create commands, and user can comment on recipe if they're authenticated. They can comment on recipe that they can view, of course, and only the creator of a recipe can delete comments on their recipe. So pretty simple rule. So what I'm just saying is I can just ask Copilot to implement again what's in there. So what it will do, just like before, is take a look at the project, use the Rayfin skill. You get the idea. So not fun looking at the agents running and implementing the stuff. Even through its time, it should only take a few minutes. So I'll skip to when I already run this prompt. So I have this command branch. I'll just do, let me just, I need that. Let's just undo last commit so you can see the changes that were generated by the agent. So what you can see that, okay, it made some modification on the front-end part, so that's not what I want to focus on right now. I want to see it first created a command entity, something I wanted. So yeah, you can see all kinds of rules on what can or cannot be done. You can see that it's more complex than recipe because it have to handle like all the different use cases, who can delete, who can update, who can create the commands and who can read it. So all kinds of different policies in there. It created the schema with the relations to recipe, and it made also some changes to the recipe entity. And it was also added to the schema. So that means that I need to update the database schema to be able to run these changes. And to do that, it also means that I have to generate a migration for my schema. And the nice thing is that Rayfin do that for you. You have a command. So let's go back to my terminal. With the npx rayfin up command, I can just do db apply. And what it will do is analyze, you can see the logs in there. It will analyze all my entities, see what's currently implemented in the database, generate a migration schema, and just perform the migration for you. As you can see now, I'm at version 2 of my schema. I also need to update my backend to be able to run the app. So I just here wanted to run the the schema migration separately, but if you just do a Rayfin up, it will redeploy the backend, but also perform the migration for you if needed. So it's just the all-in-one command. So let's just wait till the backend is redeployed, and we'll restart the app to see how it looks like for the commands. Okay, so again, npm run dev to have my app running. So let's just see what it looks like in the application. So I'll open like the first recipe. Let's add in a command like looks yummy. I can see that I have the option to delete it since I created it myself. Let's just open the same recipe inside my private browsing window, so I'm not logged in. And I can see the commands, and I cannot do anything to it. So far looking great. Let's just try to see if I can delete this command. Okay. Okay, just putting it another command. So yeah, you can see that it was quite easy and straightforward to like handle this schema migration, and that's exactly the point. Because app changes after launch and safe schema evolution are even more essential than getting it right the first time. And this is particularly important if you handle critical data that you don't want to lose, like, family recipe. So time for a quick checkpoint here. So yes, we just vibe coding an application. But the trick is we didn't ask the agent to figure it out everything on its own. It didn't have to decide from scratch how authentication should work, how the database should be exposed, how APIs should be shaped. Instead, the agent had guardrails. It had a workflow designed for agents, templates to start from, platforms primitives like authentication, database, GraphQL APIs. And that makes a big difference. Because for a recipe sharing app, things like public or private recipe, it's not just UI features. They touch identity, permissions, data access, and API design. So the value here is that the agent can focus on implementing the app experience while the platform provides the foundation around it. And that's what I mean by vibe coding with guardrails. You have fast iteration, but not from a blank unmanaged architecture. Now comes the important question really. What does it take to put this app to production? And what if I say to you that the app is already in production? Because when we run the npx Rayfin up command in the first demo, that's basically what it took to create the backend, but also put the app to production. Now, if we open the Fabric portal, you see that we have the database in there. I can open the app, and yeah, it's exactly the same application that we tested locally. I can also open it on its own page, and yeah, I can share this URL with my family and friends, so they can also create recipes now. And yeah, I can now try to start adding all my family recipes with confidence about the data. And really, you should not expect any surprise when moving an app from development to production, because it's built right from the start on the same foundation. And that's exactly what we want here. So we've seen how quick and easy we can create new enterprise-ready applications with Rayfin. The question that naturally comes next is how we can use the data that our app generated to build dynamic dashboards to get insights. Because yes, there's more to Rayfin. The idea here is pretty simple. Instead of treating the app and the analytics experience as two separate worlds, we can bring them closer together. We can do that using the new analytics app templates that's built for Rayfin. So currently, analytics app can work seamlessly with semantic models, so the data your app produces can immediately be displayed on a dashboard. And on top of that, you get a robust visual stack, not just basic charts, but a complete design skill for AI agents that help turn like raw data into something that's more polished, readable, and useful to you. So for developers, this is really nice because you're not just building an app and saying good luck to the business afterwards. You're building an experience where the data can flow directly into dashboards, reportings, and insights. And yeah, there's also more coming soon, as the experience to define custom actions triggered by your data will become simpler and even more integrated. So let's have a quick look at what it means for our Chef app. We have the data in Fabric. So if you're data-oriented, you would love to see some great dashboards and analytics on top of my recipes data, I'm sure. So I've used here a very early preview of the analytics app templates. And what I did is basically just ask Copilot to build a nice dashboard, pointing it to my semantic model and which Fabric workspace I wanted to use. And yeah, don't mind the field services title in there. That's because at first I forgot to mention which semantic model I use, so I picked one from a different application I was building. So now let's just have a look at that dashboard. So running npm run dev again. Let's give it some time to load the data. So yeah, this is the result. So I'm pretty sure the latest version of the template is even nicer because I used an old one, but it's already great for just a few minutes of work to see all that data coming from my application. If there's one more thing to take away in this session, it's this. The fastest path to production starts with the right foundation. Coding agents help us move fast. They're great for bootstrapping an app, trying ideas, and iterating quickly. But as developers, we know that producing code is only one part of the story. A real application still needs identity, data, security, deployment, and a platform that can support it over time. And when those pieces are already in the foundation, agents can move quickly without leaving a lot of cleanup for later. And when the app is Fabric native, the data is already where you need it next for analytics and AI-powered insight. So yes, by all means, build fast, but build on the foundation that can take you all the way to production. And that's it for this session. So if you want to learn more about everything I've talked about today, please take a look at our documentation, which will guide you through how you can use all these capabilities with even more detail. Thank you.